Greetings, I am Choi Jong-il, an interpreter specializing in Chinese tourism. The influence of Chosun has not only reached Dongbuk Samsung, but also extended to my homeland, Mongolia. Dongbuk was once referred to as an empire. Prior to commencing our discussion today, let us explore the characteristics of Harbin in the 1980s, as it differs significantly from the society we currently inhabit. Fighting was not illegal. Korean people may not understand, but that's how it was back then. Fighting was considered martial arts practice, and if you hit someone, you would have to pay for their medical expenses. However, killing someone was considered a capital offense. Cutting off someone's arms or legs was not illegal. Small matters can be treated as extremely important. For example, later on, Joss was caught by the police, but there was no evidence. Because he is the boss at the top, he thoroughly tidies up his personal matters and leaves no trace. However, those in higher positions continue to exert pressure on me to commit murder, so I was accused of a significant offense. In this context, promising signifies: in Korea, do they refer to someone as a Casanova if they have relationships with multiple women? Jos would dispatch his subordinates when he used to roam the streets of Harbin during the day and caught sight of a woman he was attracted to. I went to see the woman and negotiated because the load fell off the car. Since I killed Maiwen, how about spending a night with Jos? In the 1980s, in Harbin, the average monthly salary for office workers was around 180 yen. 10,000 yen was a huge amount of money that could buy an average house. Regardless of their wealth, people usually agreed because they didn't know the terrible things that would happen if they refused. The saying from that time was, Chosu's Yeyejo Sinrang, and Chosu have a new husband every night. This is the meaning. Isn't this more like an emperor than a neural network? According to the law, he was executed for the crime of neural network. The present era is unimaginable. In the end, Chaos is sentenced to death for having relationships with several women. In this era, there were many groups of knives, guns, and cannons. You all know knives and guns well, but what is a cannon here? This is a gun. It's a rifle, but they said they used it by shortening the length. When working, they either hid this kind of gun inside their clothes or made a specialized gun holster and carried it like this on their back while working. There were many gunners like this. At that time, the best gunner in Harbin was Jiang Chaini, the leader of the gang, Ri Zhongguang. Even now in Harbin, they say that the members of the black society are called gunners. The assistant was born in the year 1948. His residence was situated in a rural area on the outskirts of Harbin City. Entered boys' home at 17, lived by stealing after. Jailed 3 years for theft, released in 70, returned in 73 due to gambling. Then, in 1975, he got married, but Charles always consumed alcohol in the evening and physically assaulted his wife, and his wife couldn't tolerate it any longer and consumed pesticide and took her own life. I have not been arrested. The law of that era is indeed true. Afterwards, the father of Chosu passed away, which was a tragic event that deeply affected him. Multiple brothers were involved in a conflict over the division of the property. Chosu entered the kitchen, took out a kitchen knife, and proceeded to cut his finger on his left hand. I'm such a crazy person. How about giving it a try once? Do you think that's what it means? In this situation, the 6 brothers lost their courage and gave up. I am unsure of how much responsibility the 4th child, Chosu, assumed in the aftermath. However, since I lived frugally even after inheriting the estate, the amount was not that large. Then, in 1980, the police came rushing in with the same suspicious report. When the police put handcuffs on him, Chosu kneeled down. At that moment, he truly didn't want to go back to prison. He begged them to let him go with tears and a runny nose. This was the most embarrassing experience in Chosu's life. But even so, when the police said no, Chosu went into the kitchen and came out with a knife. So the police said, "Look at this kid. At the moment he pulled out his gun, he severed the index finger of his right hand. Then he pleaded with the police officer, explaining that he could no longer be a thief because he lacked 2 index fingers. The police officer appeared somewhat intimidated and stated that he would let him go on this occasion. Following that, Choso refrained from committing any further thefts. One day, while living as an unemployed individual, construction was underway near his residence, and thieves continued to steal construction materials. The construction manager had no alternative but to approach Choso. Given his negative reputation and extensive experience with thieves, it seems that the manager believed that to catch a thief, one must enlist the help of a thief. This is how Choso became involved in the construction industry. After some time, he made an interesting discovery. Up until then, there were individuals who constructed buildings, but there were no professionals who demolished them. It was reminiscent of those gangster movies in Korea. This is when Choso stepped forward and declared, "I can do it. I have a knack for driving troublemakers away." Perhaps during that period, society believed that only individuals like Choso were capable of such a task. Then he became a member of a farming and construction company and started gathering the gangsters he used to be close with in society. You could legally sell people and receive special treatment as a public servant. It was just a decorated profession for unemployed gangsters. Many gangsters followed him at that time, but they were all just trash. Among them, there was a troublesome grandmother. When negotiating with a construction company, the grandmother and grandfather came out with a sickle and caused a commotion, so the entire construction was postponed because of this one house. When the people inside the house called the police, the grandmother came out with a sickle again and shouted loudly. At that time, what would have happened if the people inside the house just took away the grandmother's sickle? Yes, I accidentally cut my middle finger on my left hand. Then I handed the knife and my injured finger to my grandmother and said, "If you accidentally cut this finger too, you don't have to move." The grandmother who received the finger fainted and fell down. After that, I had to urgently instruct my subordinates to demolish the house. And then I had to secretly go and stab the hidden money at night. "Take this money and leave, or I'll truly kill you next time. But please keep this money a secret and don't disclose it to anyone. If you go somewhere and speak up, I'll definitely kill you. What's this? Give a disease and give a cure. If we solve this one tough house, the other houses will fall into place without hesitation." However, there were also ordinary people and gang organizations. I will prepare a story about gangs being overwhelmed for the next class. Thanks so much for watching the video. Thanks so much for subscribing and liking. Can't wait to see you again next time.